Thanks.
What were the biggest things you learned from those two exhibition games? I know there's a lot of unknowns about this team and how everything was going to fit. What were your biggest takeaways from those two moments?
That's a great sweatshirt, by the way. I like that. Two totally different games, Robin, and I think we learned a lot in both of those. Starting with the BYU game, it showed that we can compete with anybody in the country, and the length, the athleticism, the talent that was on that roster. To go out there and play the way we did and, have adversity hit us in that game and have to find a way to finish it on a last possession to get a stop. So, a lot of good learning lessons in that game. We had a long film session that next morning. We didn't finish off possessions the way we needed to, and their efficiency on second chance opportunities was almost two points per possession. So they were very efficient, and that's been the theme for our team the last few years. When we finish off possessions, we're a really good defensive basketball team. When we don't, generally it ends in a three or a layup or a foul, and that's when we get ourselves in trouble. So, Midland, I thought, the activity that we had in that game, we talked a lot about our hands getting more deflections, and we got 45, which is a high since we've been here. So, defensively, I thought we took a step in the right direction. Offensively, I thought we settled a little bit in that second one, but once we got that thing moving in the second half, our offense really started to click. So, two really good opportunities and good games for us to get out in front of our fans, and we're excited to get rolling on Monday.
The volume of three-point attempts about what you expected when you assembled it?
I mean, we took one mid-range shot in the second game, which is, it's what you want from an efficiency standpoint. You want to create shots at the rim, you want to get fouled, and you want to create open threes. As I just said, I did think we settled for a couple. And, listen, a lot of times flow will dictate shot selection. And in the first half, when we missed, I showed a sequence in film yesterday. We turned it over. We took a contested three. We had a good look, and then we took two more contested ones. So the flow of the game, we needed to move it more. We needed to try to get the ball into the paint. When we got it in the paint, our threes were much more efficient. And then in the second half, we made 4 in a row. And then Connor came down and took a quick one off a handoff. We'll take those, when we got a nice rhythm going. So, the flow of the game a lot of times will dictate that. But, I thought overall, when you look at the two games, the efficiency that we played with, I think it's pretty solid. And we were best when we got out in transition. We were 1.91 points per possession in transition, which is a good sign for us. We need to get more of those. But, overall, yes, I was pleased with the way things looked on the offensive end.
Does it take a while to get a read on the maturity of a team, or could you even tell, after the BYU game, it was a nice result, the guys wanted the correct stuff? Sort of how they've handled things.
Yeah, and we challenged them. We challenged them hard those next couple days of practice to make sure there wasn't complacency and that the guys didn't get comfortable. And they responded well. They they came in ready to go after the day off on Sunday, and I thought we had a really sharp practice on Monday. Tuesday wasn't as good, had an off day, and then the next couple days were excellent after that, heading into the Midland game. So yesterday we looked like the Warriors. Today we were clanking that thing all over the place. So there's still work to do, and listen, you can learn a lot about yourselves in practice as well. Yesterday when everything was going great, the energy was high. Today, when the ball wasn't going in the basket as well, you got to find a way to get stops and, get tough and dirty and gritty and get on the floor and make hustle-winning plays. So, again, it's all part of the process here as far as getting to the opener. We're still learning a lot about ourselves. I still don't know exactly what the starting lineup's going to be or what the rotation is going to be. But, these are all valuable opportunities for our team to go out there and show that they belong on the floor. And, again, in this business, I talk a lot about it. When you have a big emotional win, you got to find a way to get over it. If you don't, you're going to get your butt kicked the next time out. So I'm proud of the guys, how they came out and responded in the practices, after the two exhibitions.
How did Ugi's back just respond to?
Yeah, Ugi is, we're going to shut him down for at least 2 weeks, and he's getting another opinion today on it. He just continues to have soreness in that back. So hopefully these 2 weeks of inactivity will get him where he needs to be, and we can get him out there on the floor. But, we're just having too many times where he'll get out there and he'll come back the next morning and he's more sore than he was. So we just need to shut him down for hopefully a short stint and then get him back out there hopefully for the rest of the season.
How challenging are these early season scouts on teams?
Yeah, they're really hard. When you schedule games, these rosters are completely flipped from when you have the original schedule. And I've been really impressed in watching our opponent that we're going to face on Monday. They got great length. They started two different ways. Looked like they had a couple guys that played in the first game that didn't didn't play in the second game. But they shoot it. They're long. They're athletic. They really go after it. They're aggressive. They're very well coached. So this will be a good challenge for us on Monday.
How important are those two exhibition games for Leo, both for him getting out there and for you seeing how he handles himself in game?
Leo only played a couple minutes in the BYU game, but I thought he was very effective. And the second game, obviously, he got a lot longer stretch out there on the floor, and I thought he moved well. Made some really good plays, got fouled, played with some strength and toughness. He's already put on 20 pounds. So, you can see the growth in Leo. And, we'll see what happens with Oogie's situation, with our bigs the way we are right now, Rink and BK will be out there a lot at the 5, but, Leo's going to have to keep himself ready. We're going to need him, this year. And, his length, his mobility, his skill level is very impressive for a freshman.
It's also impressive for a guy that tall. He can make threes. He can just
Yeah.
about anything.
Yeah, hit
So
it.
what is that?
Yeah, hit a 3 today in practice, and listen, when Leo looks back at his career, he's going to realize how fortunate he was to play against Rink Mast every day, and just to see the things that Rink can do for our offense, how he opens it up, his ability to make passes and reads, when to pop, when to roll, when to make yourself available in the pocket, all those things that Rink is elite at. Leo is learning, so he's getting a great tutor session every day. Playing behind Rink, playing behind Oogie when he was out there, especially earlier in the season. So, the kid's got a hell of a future, and we're excited for him. And there's a pretty good chance we're going to need him and need him a lot this year.
You mentioned Rink offensively, but defensively, what did you guys miss with him off the court last year that you've seen reintegrated this year?
Yeah, just Rink's attention to detail is as good as anybody I've ever coached. He's not going to overwhelm you with athleticism, but he's always got his hand in the right position. We try to take away the pocket in our pick and roll defense, being up at the level, and Rink is unbelievable at that, getting deflections and allowing our guards to get their hands active in the windows. When you look at the 45 deflections, Sam had 12 of them, I think Kale had 6 of them, and then Rink was next with 5. So, just the things that he does out there on the floor, from an IQ standpoint, he's constantly communicating on both ends of the floor. We missed that, on our front line a year ago. So, Rink, BK, those guys are both very active with their hands and both very effective pick and roll defenders.
Fred, I know you said you haven't determined what the starting lineup is yet, but Kale, what has he done to put himself into that conversation?
Yeah, I just, Kale's one of the great success stories. And, when you look at our team a year ago, and it's just a perfect example of why you keep yourself ready. And, he was in the gym all the time a year ago. Every day he would come in and get extra work in, even though he wasn't in our rotation for a lot of the season. And then he gets called upon to go out there and play in the Crown, and he was as valuable as anybody on the floor in helping us win that championship at the end of the year. So, it's just, he's such an easy guy to root for because he's all about the right things. I've talked about Kale. If he wants to do it, I don't know why you would, Kale, but, he's going to be a hell of a coach one day if that's the direction that he wants to go. And, he comes from a great tree with his family of coaching. They all had Midland stuff the other day, but, Kale is, again, he's just all about the right things. You never have to worry about him. He's a great leader off the court. He spoke at the FCA meeting the other night, said he was a little bit nervous, but, he just, he does everything right. So, I'm happy for him. I'm proud of him and, looking for a big year out of Kale.
You talked about the response that you guys had in the days after the BYU exhibition. How much are you anticipating what that response is going to be now when you guys hit the court when these games count?
Well, I talked about this the day after in our film session. We don't need to go out now because it counts and it's for real and change anything. We've been very effective. We've shared the ball. We haven't, for the most part, played in a crowd. I had a little stretch of turnovers in the first half, I think 4 and 5 possessions. But for the most part, we played basketball the right way. So now it's not going out there and reinvent the wheel and going out and trying to do it on your own. We have to, the entire season, go out and trust. And, there's going to be a time at this season where we hit adversity. Probably every game that we play, we step on the floor and we have to handle that the right way. So, it's just going out there and continuing to battle and continue to fight and play for each other. And, that's one thing I know this group will do.
What's the key with Braden Frager, getting him going where you said sometimes it's like he's the only guy in the gym, but also like controlling the volume with what he shoots? I know 13 threes, it's probably not something you want every night from him.
Well, if he makes 6 of them, I don't mind that. Yeah, he is. He's one of those unique guys when he gets it going, and I've played with guys like this, and, sometimes he may take a little bit questionable shot, but once he gets in a rhythm, we trust him on those shots. It's just, sometimes those shots aren't the shots to get you going. Once you get those, a couple to go in the basket, and you have a little heat check. I've always been fine with that. So, for Braden, he's got the unique ability to get downhill and play with force and play with athleticism, but also his ability to get hot from the outside. And you saw that, obviously the other day after not scoring in the BYU game, but I didn't think he forced in the BYU game either. He only took 3 shots, and I thought they were all good looks. And then, once he got it going in the Midland game, I thought our guys did a really good job of finding him.
You mentioned Kendall Blue after the game on Monday. Where is he? Do you feel like he just is with getting adjusted to everything heading into the year?
Yeah, I mentioned this to our team the other day. I thought Kendall had his best week of practice leading into that Midland game. He was forced to really lead that second group, and I thought he did an excellent job of that. His shot has really come on as the practices, as the fall practices and the training camp have progressed. But, the thing I was really happy with Kendall is he made some toughness plays. He got in there, he got in the scrum. He had 5 assists, he had no turnovers. And, those are the types of plays we're going to need out of Kendall. But I thought just from a leadership and a toughness standpoint, Kendall took a huge step in the right direction. And, we're going to need Kendall's size at 6'7". Especially once we get into Big Ten play, we got big, strong, athletic, physical guards in our league, so we're going to need that size.
You said Barricade was going to be at the 5 quite a bit, him and Rink. How much more comfortable have you seen him look as kind of that primary hub and big man when he's the 5-man?
Yeah, he played quite a bit of 5 last year, and we had some of our most effective lineups when BK was out there at the 5. With Rink not on the floor last year, so he's plenty comfortable playing that. BK's an unbelievably smart basketball player, and you even saw it in the game the other day where we set a 5-4 pick and roll. And, he has that ability to bring it down the floor. We've really got 5 guys that can facilitate and get the ball into play and get into our offense. So, having a 6'10", 6'9", 6'10" on the perimeter at the 4-5, it's a good luxury to have, with those guys being able to make plays.
The things that you talked about learning from the 2 exhibition games, were there any glaring things where you're like, we got to improve on this heading into the regular season?
Just a constant the communication, the toughness, all those little things, we talk about them every day, and we're really good at them when things are going well. I still worry, and I'm not the only coach in the country that's worried about how we're going to handle, adversity. But, that's the biggest thing with this team. When the ball's not going to the basket, how are we going to respond? Are we going to get nasty on that other end and find a way to manufacture points in other ways? And, I saw some of that. I saw growth in that second exhibition game with our hands and lengths. Now, obviously the talent isn't the same as what we faced in that BYU game, but I did think we took things that we learned in our film session and applied that to our practices to create more opportunities offensively from our defense, from our deflections, and that got us out in transition. So, the finishing off possessions, that's always going to be a concern for all of us in this position. But, the toughness, you find a way to win the 50-50 battle, you're going to win a lot of games.
Anything else for Coach?
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
We're going to Kale next. And this for you as speaking.